Well, hello and welcome to Loving the Journey. I'm Donna Cundy, and today I am joined in the studio with by Sheila Slick. Sheila, it's great to have you. Sheila is the host of is it the Five Milestones podcast?
Milestone moments in business and
Milestone
leadership.
moments. Yes, thank you. We were just talking about that before we pushed the record button, and here we are live. But we're going to be talking, as with all of our guests, about Sheila's journey behind the microphone and who they've become along the way. So, a little bit about Sheila before we dive in. Sheila, you have also Pod2Book AI, which was very instrumental in the book that we co-authored together that became another international bestseller. And Pod2Book AI is a fantastic program that was born out of your podcast, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So you never know where hello words, where podcasting can take you as you go on this journey. So Sheila, you have been a programmer most of your life. You got behind the microphone to do the milestone moments. Can you tell us what was the impetus? Like, what was your call to start a podcast? Why?
So I have believed in the power of story and communication for many years. When I learned how to program back when I was 36 years old, a mother of three small children, the iPod Touch had just been introduced in the market. That's what I'm talking about. I ended up in a position where I used these skills to promote STEM and to promote women, learning technology, embracing the technologies. It's happening again today, but with AI, right? We're having
Hmm.
that disruption. We're having that conversation. And so with that in mind, I became a business consultant in that third company, which was a software development company, because people would come up and say, well, I have an idea for an app. And the conversation would say, well, that's a great idea. How are you going to market and get your return on investment in the development of the app? And so having founded, that was my third company. I have a lot of entrepreneurial experience. My natural next step was to help others. I was serving as SCORE chair for Volusia and Flagler County for 2 years, where I was not only having daily conversations with aspiring entrepreneurs, but we were also helping existing, businesses look through the different parts of the company to help them grow their business or solve a particular pain point. And so when I finished my term as chair, I had that void that I wanted to continue the conversation. And what a better way to meet people than to invite them on a podcast episode. So that's how it was born.
I love that. And so it was just this idea to be able to continue to connect with other business owners and entrepreneurs. And when you say your background with STEM, what I love about your story is you brought your children into your journey, and both with your business and with the work that you did with NASA, and then it really evolved into where you are now. Um, when you talk about your ups and downs of the journey, because we all know that podcasting is like, oh, this is a great idea. You talk about business owners, I've got this great idea, and then as we go into launching the great idea, it always seems like it's twice as long and five times as much money and all of the things to that. But when you were doing your podcast, did you notice anything like that showing up where it wasn't quite as you expected?
First episode.
Let's rewind.
Yes. When you press play and you hear yourself recording and you start doubting your own self, and oh
Mm,
boy, my ums and my ahs, and this is going to need so much editing because you're hearing yourself from a different perspective. One thing is speaking, another thing is listening. So my struggle began with the first episode, but you know what? All of those years of experience as a developer have taught me is you have to overcome and you have all these limiting beliefs and everything, it's one step at a time. So instead of erasing, I thought, no, this is part of my growth, my stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm going to find a way to improve my speech rather than spend countless hours editing.
Oh, that's a what a great awareness that is there. So your first episode, it's published now. We can go listen to it.
Well, not just the first one, probably like the first 10, 15. And
What
I
have you
think I've
done?
improved, right? I mean, if you want to come back and say,
Yeah.
Sheila, you're almost at your 100th and you're still saying, I'm good.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful because it I think podcasting is a personal journey. Even if whether we're doing a solo podcast or we're interviewing other people, we become a different person through that experience. And so for you to keep going through all of this, what have you noticed about your becoming?
Well, Pod2Book AI is part of that journey. And so we never know where it will lead us. And back to the power of the story. Why did I even learn how to program in the first place? This new instrument had been, showcased, and I was living overseas, third world country with three smaller children, and they were all lining up to play with this gadget that I couldn't even understand. But as a mother and as a visionary, I thought it doesn't take like brain science to understand that this is the future. And so as a mother, I said, well, who's going to teach them? And so they were that inspiration. The why I decided to learn to code was to be able to incorporate that, with them. But it was a story that I saw on TV. It was a 13-year-old boy that was explaining how he had built a game and he had received 1 million downloads. So that story was what led me to code. As I am meeting all of these wonderful people on my podcast. And sometimes you end up not only building relationships, but working with them in one way or another. Because I've even helped people launch podcasts, even during the conversation, Sheila, I've wanted a podcast. How do I do it? And I'm like, it's kind of easy. It's not really complicated if you want to just get started. And so last year, one of my guests showed up and he's an expert, a professor in AI and innovation. And we're having that conversation. And when we, stopped recording, because the conversation sometimes continues after you're done recording, he said, Sheila, why aren't you programming with AI? And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm like 15, 20 years older. I don't have to like reprogram any of these apps that I was, doing back at the time, which a lot of them were educational or for organizations. And I thought, I'm afraid of AI. I don't know where it's going. And he just changed my mindset and said, can you just use your imagination and put one of those apps and see how you can take it to a different level with these new tools? And then I thought, well, I don't need no children's apps. I need to repurpose some of these wonderful conversations like this one that inspired me to take action. And so that's the power of a message, and that's the power of a story. And that's how Pod2Book AI and that idea went from idea to action.
I love that. So in your journey, it was moving moving aside your own criticisms of yourself, your own perceptions of how you sounded to be able to continue doing the podcast because we all have that. Everybody says, "Oh, that's not me. That doesn't sound like me." We all have that. But when you move past that and you began connecting with these other business owners, one of them in a side conversation outside of the podcast, because we all finish the podcast and we have a little talk before and a little talk after. And if you're not, you probably want to start doing that because that's where the relationships are built. And it was just an idea of, well, Sheila, why not start something new? And you know, pulling back the curtain, that was how our book, that's how we met and how our book came into existence very quickly. To get that done there. And so you never know where podcasting is going to take you, right? You had You had this a mentor, let's call him a mentor, give you an idea to say, do something with AI. Why did you decide to do Pod2Book AI specifically?
because I had all of these beautiful conversations. And so not everyone listens to podcasts, right? So now you want to take the same message as a creator. You've already spent a lot of time meeting, recording, gathering the information, everything that you need to know about the guest, whether it be the bio, the questions you're going to ask, where does that conversation take us? And so you already have a lot of time and energy invested in that one medium. Other people perhaps are leveraging that in social media. So you are a content creator at that point. And one of the most beneficial tools, in my opinion, is to be able to take that same message, that same information, and repurpose it, recycle it so that you're not having to repeat it in a different format. So that's how Pod2Book AI was born, was how can I not only preserve these conversations, but convert them into the reader's format so that it also lands, that same message lands in the hands of a bigger audience.
Yeah, I love that. And being an educator, I have a background, formerly trained as a teacher, and I have learned that there are different types of learners. There's the visual learner, the audio learner, and the kinesthetic learner. And so if you're just talking podcasting, you're missing out on all those who are the visual or kinesthetic learners who want to submerge themselves into it a little bit more. So I love that you put that idea together, and you did a grown up app
It did.
out of the yeah, and I know it's still evolving into so many things that it can be, and that's the beauty of podcasting, I think, is you just never know where an idea is going to go. Like it's when uh, Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich says that whenever two or more minds come together, it creates that third mastermind. So every time, if you're a podcaster who's doing interview style, you're creating that third mastermind each time, and you never know what's going to come from that.
I
I love
love
that.
that, Donna. That's almost see, now I'm like, "Oh my god, do an entire season just focusing on that third part, what came out of the conversation." That would be an
Oh,
incredible
yeah.
way to set up the interviews. This is how I think now, right?
Mhm. Keep the recording going so that you can, capture that to put it into Pod2Book AI, because 'cause you'll still have that audio. Just keep the recording going. Start a new recording on for the after conversation. Yes. Yes, 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 Sheila. Yes, yes, yes. I gotta know, the 5 Milestones, why did you choose that name?
So it's general. The software development company that I had overseas was named Slick Developers, using my last name. Remember, the intention of even learning how to code was so that my next generation, my children, had that skill in hand. Well, ask me if one of the three is interested in a software development company. They were like, no, we're good. I mean, they all know how to code. My daughter is a data scientist at this point. She's using data science to be able to process all of the data in the research that she collects. So they're using it, but not from mom, right? There's just something that they all want to be independent. They all want to, build their own lives, not from inheriting, so to speak, or being part of that family business. And so that was a lesson that I learned. See, this could go in a book right there, right? Sometimes
Mhm.
you build something with one intention in mind, but life presents something else. And so instead of selling the company with the name, I had to sell off projects or clients, so to speak. And
Mm.
as a business development, we all need an exit strategy. And so this one was my fifth version of me. It was my fifth decade of being alive. And now that my children are grown, it was my next step. And I break everything down into the number five. It's a great number. I think three is too small, 10 is too big. And so Five Milestones is my own framework to get from beginning to end.
Hmm. I love that. I love the story behind the story, because that really says, a lot about that. So you started how long ago did you start your podcast?
2 years. 2
And you're
years and 1
already
month
on the
because it was in February. Yes.
wow, and you're already on your 100th,
So
right?
the way that went, remember, I do technology, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
so I had a mentor that was the motor behind me. "Sheila, why don't you just start your own?" Because I was a guest on other people's podcasts.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought, "That's great because now I can also, invite people." But sometimes I'm too efficient with technology, and I thought, "Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and automate this process." So I automated the entire booking, everything from, the invite to the booking, gathering the
Mhm.
information, and I went, out of town for that week, and I had 38 people book. And then I thought, "What have I just done?" Right? Like, at this moment in time, how am I even going to sit down and record 38 people? Now, I'm not monetizing the podcast. It's costing you time and money to edit, to clean it up, and so forth. And the moment I got back home, I was like, "I'm turning this off. I'm turning this off." And so I did that. And then what it did teach me was that I was most efficient working in blocks. And so moving forward, I have a block of hours weekly where I record content in bulk. So rather than you saying, "Okay, Donna, 9 o'clock works great for me on a Monday or 3 o'clock on a Thursday," I try and schedule, back to back 2 to 3 podcast episodes on a given day. Then you can schedule them. So we can still move and make sure that we are consistent with the publishing, which I think is one of the most critical parts of any project, including a podcast, is consistency.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that time blocking. Because you're my second one today. I've got 3 today, I do the same thing, and every conversation is unique, every conversation is special, but, like, for me, hair and makeup is only done on certain days, and then I can just, hang out and build the business behind the scenes without the microphone on. I think that is so important because you get into a rhythm, you get into a flow, when you bulk it like that, you control your calendar. I've heard a lot of podcasters who say, one of the hardest things they have is always finding people to interview and to find them and to get them on their schedule. But like you said, you're providing value. You're providing the time and the resources and all of the things to amplify somebody else's message and somebody else's voice. So if you say, "I do interviews on this day, here's the blocks," they'll find a time to show up for you. And I think that that's a fantastic way to not only build consistency, but to, if you're a business owner and you're building a business around things, to allow you to not get consumed by the podcast.
Yes. So, Donna, the first book that I published using Pod2Book AI, I did 10 recordings. It is called Momentum. And I have an
Mm.
entire chapter dedicated not just to time blocking, but your time block for being creative or speaking may be different than mine. You may be an afternoon person where maybe my creativity or my voice serves better in the morning. And so when you put those two elements in place, what you have is showing up as your best self for that particular task. So if you told me at 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm going to be sitting down and having a conversation, I may be like, "Okay, Donna, uh, I can't go get that coffee." Where, at 9 a.m., I may be like all, chirpy and everything. But I know other people that work the other way. They'll be doing a live podcast at 8 o'clock at night and just that's their time. So it's a combination of both. It's trying to find your energy, right, where it works best, and then make sure that you reserve and allocate that specific time for that task.
Yeah. And I think beyond that too is the way the human brain functions kind of as a, I know mine works like a computer, where if I'm focused on connecting with a person, I'm going to show up differently thinking to connect with people. Oh, look, it's people, it's Sheila, yay. Versus if I'm going to be editing, if I do edit my own. So when I sit down to edit, I have a process where I do this, and it's very program oriented mind. And I think if I for I know for me, if I try to go, hey Sheila, and it doesn't work very well to do that. So when you can time block not just your schedule but also the task, I think we get more productivity out of it. What do you think about that?
No, I agree, especially when that task is either financial, right? And you're
Mhm.
leveraging and having to revise your finances, which is very number oriented, or when I'm programming. When I'm programming, I will be talking to myself sometimes, but it's in conditional statements, right? If this happens, that happens. Could you imagine if I went and had a conversation? Hi, how are you? Welcome to Milestone Moments. How did this happen and why did it happen that way? That's my train of thought, right? Looking for
Yeah.
bugs, looking for optimization rather than that human connection.
Yeah, yeah. What great advice to block the time out so that not only you're controlling your calendar in a way that serves you and your business and your energy, but also so that you can show up mentally different for the person that's in front of you. That's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you. I'll take it as a compliment because I consider you not just a podcast expert, but someone that has been able to leverage it into a community, into a book, into a coaching program. So I hold you up really high
Aw,
on my list.
hearts. Oh, this is the new heart now. So I know we'll give you
Oh,
the new heart, right? For those of you that are listening, we just did the forefinger to pinky new heart. It used to be the two hands, and now it's this the TikTok. I don't know. It'll change again as it goes. So we're following the hero's journey on the podcasting journey, and hero, heroine, whichever name you want to put to that. There's the call, and then we have to show up to the call, and then all these crazy things happen, and then sometimes things go off track, and then we find a mentor, and then we continue on, and we return with a message to the next generation. And so Sheila, when we talk about, I believe that there's somebody listening up until this point because there's something that they're waiting for you to tell them specifically. What comes to mind that you want to share with this podcaster who is listening, that for your message, the only way that you can say it?
we all have a story, and your story matters. That is my message to anyone listening, because sometimes we doubt ourselves or we limit ourselves. We're faced with that fear. I'm not important enough, or, am I going to have listeners? And if you put on the mindset that if you change one person's life with that conversation, or that message, that that's good enough, that's a person you spoke to, then you should be unstoppable sharing that message and that voice. And my path right now, where it has evolved, is as I meet people and now have the tool, I've helped a lot of people also become published authors, whether it be a chapter in a book or a full book, which has a lot of impact. And my heart is there with some of the stories. And you never know sometimes what the message and the powerful message is when you're having just that conversation. It'll come out in a conversation. It's like, boom, that's that magical moment. This is where the book needs to start. So right now I have those two things combined and it's right at that sweet point. So I'm really happy.
I love that. Yeah, you matter, your message matters, and your story matters. That what we're we it's, I think there are so many marginalized people that have been, children to be seen and not heard. I was one of them. And so for you to say that, to speak up and to share your story and tell your story, that means a lot to me personally and to the listener who needed to hear that, go do it because your story matters too. Sheila, you fivemilestones.com. You said it's FIVE spelled out or the number 5milestones.com. And you had an invitation to listeners also to want to amplify their stories, which goes along with your message. You want to talk about that?
I would love to. So at fivemilestones.com is where you can learn more about the software I developed, Pod2Book AI. If you're a podcaster and you're looking to turn your audio, these conversations into a full book manuscript in hours and not months. And when I say hours, under 3 hours, you will have your first draft for your written book. If you're not a podcaster or you haven't started a podcast, but you're wanting to share a story, a great first step could be to be a guest on a podcast. And now you're a chapter in a book where you connect and meet with the other people in the book. So it becomes like our relationship, right? You start forming not only human connections, but you're part of a broader community. I invite you to look at the contributing author package so that you can be a guest on my show. And with that conversation, we're able to build your chapter.
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful. And what an amazing platform and program, and the heart behind it is what I truly love about you, Sheila, being with you, being a colleague with you, being a friend with you, being a co-author with you is the heart behind all of you do. And so Sheila Slick, thank you for sharing your journey with us today. If you are listening and want more from Sheila, again, it's fivemilestones.com, fivemilestones.com. And the name of your podcast, one more time for people to go listen.
Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership.
Love it. Links are going to be in the show notes. And so for our listeners, thank you for spending time with us today. Until next time, keep loving the journey, and we'll be back again with another episode soon. Thanks. Bye for now.
Hey there, it's Donna. Here's something worth thinking about. What if the reason your ideal clients are not finding you has nothing to do with your expertise and everything to do with 5 specific gaps in your online presence that you can't see yet? The Influence Scorecard was designed to show you exactly where those gaps are and what to do about them. We will review your podcast, your website, or your social media presence using the 5 tenets of influence: be seen, be heard, be easy to follow, be the solution, and be paid with purpose. And we're going to deliver a personalized review to your inbox within 48 hours. Every scorecard gets human eyes on it before it reaches you, and it's completely free. Click the link on the screen or go to 365businessmaker.com/scorecard to get started today.